He was a man who never appeared dangerous, never looked like someone capable of great harm. In fact, people described him as charming, polite, and always ready with the right words at the right moment. But behind those practiced smiles and carefully chosen sentences, he hid a lifelong habit that slowly consumed him from within. He lied about everything, not just the big things, but the smallest details of ordinary life. His first lies were innocent. As a child, he discovered that bending the truth earned him praise, sympathy, or advantage. When he grew older, the lies became more convenient than honesty. Instead of admitting mistakes, he created stories. Instead of correcting misunderstandings, he deepened them. He lied to avoid guilt, to protect his pride, and sometimes simply because truth felt too heavy to carry. Over the years, the lies multiplied like shadows spreading across a room. He lied to his wife to maintain an image of virtue. He lied to his children to appear wise. He lied to his friends so they would respect him. And he lied to himself more than anyone else, convincing his own heart that he was a good man, that the truth didn't matter as long as the world never discovered it. His entire life became a woven fabric of falsehood. Each thread looked harmless, but together they created a cloak that separated him from sincerity, from humility, and ultimately, from God. His relationships were not built on trust but on illusions he carefully crafted. Whenever someone came close to knowing the real him, he pushed them away with another carefully placed falsehood. What he didn't realize was that a soul cannot hide behind lies forever. The truth he feared so deeply was waiting for him, patiently, silently, at the moment when every mask would finally fall. As the man's life began to approach its final days, something inside him grew restless. His body weakened, his voice lost its strength, and yet his mind was still clinging to the same patterns that had shaped his entire existence. Even on his sickbed, he insisted he was fine, pretending his condition wasn't serious, lying to doctors, lying to his family, and lying to himself. It was as if deception had become his last remaining comfort. Those around him tried to help. His wife asked if he wanted a priest. His children urged him to make peace with anyone he had wronged. But each time, he waved them away with a forced smile and a practiced lie. "I have nothing to confess. I've lived a good life." He repeated those words so often that he almost believed them. Almost. But as his pulse slowed, the walls of illusion he built for decades began to tremble. His sleep became troubled, his dreams chaotic. He woke in the middle of the night, sweating, insisting he heard voices calling his name. For the first time, fear entered his eyes. Not fear of death, but fear that the truth he avoided had finally arrived. Hundreds of miles away, Padre Pio felt an unusual heaviness during prayer. He didn't know who this man was, but he sensed the presence of a soul fighting a silent battle, a soul approaching eternity with chains it refused to acknowledge. Padre Pio's heart tightened, for he knew what such spiritual resistance often meant. A life spent running from truth now stood moments away from the one place where lies could no longer survive. As the man's final hour approached, his voice grew faint, his confidence shattered. The lies that once protected him now abandoned him, leaving him face to face with the reality he had never dared to confront. In the quiet of prayer, Padre Pio was suddenly drawn into a vision unlike any he had seen before. It began with darkness, not the darkness of night, but the darkness of a soul that had spent a lifetime hiding from truth. He saw the man's soul standing alone in a vast, silent space, illuminated only by a distant, gentle light. That light was God's presence, pure, honest, unmistakable. But the soul could not approach it. Around the man's soul appeared shadows, hundreds of them, shifting, whispering, moving like smoke. These were not demons. They were his lies. Every deception he had spoken, every truth he had distorted, every false image he created of himself had taken shape. Lies he told decades ago. Lies he told minutes before death. Lies he had forgotten, but heaven had not. Each shadow wrapped around him like a vine, restricting his steps. When he tried to move toward the light, the shadows tightened. In that moment, the man realized his lies were no longer tools he controlled. They had become chains that controlled him. Padre Pio watched as the soul tried to defend itself with the same excuses it used in life. It was harmless. I didn't mean it. Everyone lies. But in the presence of God's perfect truth, excuses dissolved like dust. The soul's own words turned against him, revealing not just what he had said, but who he had become. For the first time, the man saw the full weight of his choices. Lies he thought were insignificant had harmed those who trusted him. Lies he told to protect himself had weakened his soul. And lies he told to appear righteous had distanced him from God. Padre Pio felt deep sorrow, not because the man lied, but because he never allowed truth to heal him while he lived. As Padre Pio continued to witness the vision, the scene grew heavier. The man's soul, wrapped in the shadows of his own falsehoods, now stood directly before the light of God, a light so pure that nothing impure could endure it. This was not the light of punishment, but the light of truth, a truth the man had avoided his entire life. In that moment, every excuse he had ever relied on rose inside him like reflex. He tried to defend himself with the same justifications he used on earth. I didn't want to hurt anyone. I was protecting myself. I was only trying to survive, but the words had no strength here. They fell away, empty, powerless. Lies cannot stand in the presence of the one who is truth itself. The man saw, with terrifying clarity, the ripple effects of his deceptions. He saw how one lie planted distrust in a friend's heart, how another lie caused pain to someone who loved him, how his false promises shaped the wounded memories of his children. He saw relationships that could have been healed, moments that could have been redeemed, opportunities for goodness he had destroyed with a single dishonest sentence. This was the judgment, not a courtroom, not a voice condemning him, but the unavoidable confrontation with reality. He saw his life exactly as God saw it. The soul felt sorrow, but not the healing sorrow of repentance, rather the sorrow of regret, the sorrow of a man who had wasted his chances to change while there was still time. For the first time, he realized that his lies were not merely mistakes, but barriers he willingly built between himself and the God who longed to save him. Padre Pio understood then that the soul was not being punished by God. The soul was suffering from the truth it had spent a lifetime escaping. And now, in eternity, there was nowhere left to hide. When the vision ended, Padre Pio remained still for a long moment. His heart was heavy, not because he judged the man, but because he understood how easily any soul could fall into the same trap. He knew that lies rarely begin as acts of malice. They begin as small choices, tiny moments where a person chooses comfort over honesty, pride over humility, appearance over truth. But those choices, repeated day after day, slowly shape the soul. Padre Pio later spoke about this experience to those who sought his guidance. He said that lying is not merely a sin of speech, it is a wound inflicted on the soul itself. Every lie weakens the soul's connection to God because God is truth. And when a person builds their life around deception, they are building walls that block grace from entering. He warned that the most dangerous lies are the ones we tell ourselves, lies that convince us we don't need forgiveness, don't need confession, don't need to change. A soul can wander far from God while believing it is still close. Padre Pio urged people to examine their hearts honestly, to seek the truth even when it hurts, and to confess with humility. He reminded them that truth might wound pride, but lies wound the soul. And while there is time on earth, every soul has the chance to break free from the chains that bind it. But once life ends, only truth remains inescapable, eternal, absolute.